Hear the Colour by Joe Neal. Part 1. Turn the wireless off, you're waking the baby. Hear the colour, see the sound, hunger for the next blue note, ripple down of yelping sax, hard-slapped double bass, knuckled chords, pedal-pumping thump, and cross-hand stretch of disgraced pa-rum stomp. On this hot night, vowelless rhythms king of consonants, as trombone sticks its brag in counterpoint to streeling clarinet. Then starburst fireworks peal from jubilating trumpet thrill, black notes fleeing the net of beaten time. Oh man, that's jazz for me. Of Moth and Man. The red dot creeping slow against the cliff was smaller than the caterpillar munching mighty at my feet. Perspective lent the stripy horn-tailed creature green giant status as it ate into the leaves of clinging mountain plant. With scope, I watched the figure grope a ledge defying the placing of his feet. Knowing grub will make a moth, he himself a man. Bard's Prayer. O lead us not to churchly places, where music reeks of hush, and wide-embracing lichens measure out the muted beat of time. Let us go instead to gaze at turbulence of water as it spurtles over rock, pounding stone to beds of grit, when spawning fish can cycle life again. To a pipefish. How you must have twitched and flailed upon the rock, as searing sun baled moisture from your dwindling tidal strand. How your pouting mouth must have sucked and puffed to push and siphon water through those fluttering filaments of gill. How you must have fought to stay upright in your eelgrass habitat, as the sea that held you seeped away. And how you were left to lie in wait for your horizontal gasping death. Thus I found you, high and dry, beyond the succour of the waves, still so elegant in your elongated form. And now you adorn my mantel-shelf, hard and brittle, grey as dust, a little life-force spent. War and Peace. You said you were my father, the man in the khaki coat, and let me pull the trigger of your gun. A Lee Enfield 303, I know that now, used to kill the enemy far across the sea, while I was home in Wales with Mum. I called you Daddy, and I remember that you cried silently as snow fell on your head. 6 years you fought in drenching mud and other people's blood. Kill or they'll kill you, a do-or-die machine whose pity had no place to be. A sergeant major raging for his men, you watched as Stukas strafed fleeing French refugees and held a dying child, hurling hatred at the parting plane. You struggled with the family you later raised, and measured peace against the war that tore you from the comfort clutch of pastures green. Suffer little children you could not. Humanity had died in you, like the sapping life you'd cradled in your rage, against that awful frowning sky. But hate within could not survive the oxygen of love our mother breathed for us, and music you staccato played in cavalcade of colour out of black and white remade the man we all called Dad. Thus I recollect the only time you really laughed, pounding your piano in the parlour, and, tethered to the honky-tonk of fun, 2 brothers and their mum. Red on Blue. Alizarin on blue makes me think of you in deck chair days when relaxing was such fun. Side by side I seemed so wan, but you belonged astride the sun. Big Bang. Explosions are what make me tick. Ideally, that's how I'd like to go, if fate decreed the knowledge of our time of death. No bits, no funeral, just complete disintegration. Dust unto dust. Literally. A drink or two to celebrate or denigrate. A life of scant significance. Now, next to smell of breaking waves, or yellow gorse in sunshine after rain, spent gunpowder gives me that Madeleine thrill of recollection that Proust banged on about so elegantly. It all began, this strange love of detonation, on a beach in Wales, when two boys found a wartime unexploded mine. Throwing stones at it only made it clang. We had to hit its horns, point on, to generate a bang. So, instead, we rolled a boulder down the steepest bank and fled. The silence, when it hit, confused us then. So we two brothers sneaked a look from behind our safety nook, in time to hear a rumbling roar as debris rose into the sky. Beside my hands that held my head, there fell a jagged piece of iron that would have had me dead. We ran for it, and never stopped until we'd reached the road. Oh, to hear that bang again, and see the hole the powder dug, instead of tearing ships apart in time of war, when bombs were set to kill, not boys to entertain. Plato's not for jazzin'. So let us nail the ambiguity in Plato's labyrinthine sway, when he tells of rhythm being the path to harmony, unless you measure pace of step towards the bliss of love on love. But then the Roman soul Catullus, a man with 3 beats to his name, would be better placed to spell that sullen art in perfect poet time. Now, back to age of Plato, lest we classically digress. In Athens, the word is less, not more, when you wish to make your mark, to impress the minds around you in scholars' argument. To boil it down, 2 harmonies allowed in life, says Mr. P. 1, the strain of courage, the other, temperance. Today, G minor fits the bill. No place for the thump and bleat of jazz, pleasure just for pleasure's sake. Oh no, the ancient's mind would blow. Reborn on the 4th of July. Thoughts stirred by found chess pieces carved from a wooden leg in Boston, Massachusetts. When Washington came to inspect the court men, maimed prisoners of war, he ordered them treated as equal to all other folk. "Who's this, then?" pointing to Sam. "Lieutenant, is he, one of King George's Marines." "Lieutenant," said Sam, for that was his name. "Lieutenant, we say in the US of A. You're now in a country that's free. You'll get a new leg, we've good wood growing here." "Thank you," said Sam, "but my ship's made of oak." "So be it," said Washington George. "You're welcome to stay, moored by your leg in this country of ours. And soon when you're well, you must come and take tea, with my family and me." "I never drink tea. Lieutenants drink gin," said Sam with a grin. And so Sam Foster he stayed, and became one of them, in a life that he'd lead for 60 years more. When in his last days, lying infirm in the bed, he carved from his leg chess pieces to play, life skilled and fulfilled, for that was his way. Hedgehog. Thrice and once the hedge-pig whined. So said the second witch, and dire it was the consequence. But when my spiky friend comes snuffling round the slug-crept cabbage patch, he whistles his delight, and dines away the night, oblivious to death's knock, should he stray onto the motorway. To the Manor Born. The style they'd chosen for the decor of the room was a nod to neoclassical Baroque, though the daughter of the house, who'd offered me the student job of painting it, was proving far less willing than the nymphs that Bacchus chased across the ceiling. For soon I was to know that if you didn't have that touch of class enjoyed by privilege, you needn't chance your arm. Still, I had the work, and earned my crust to supplement the grant I'd lost in a bluffing poker game. 2 lessons learned. Stick to who and what you know, and keep your place where you belong. And so I write and act and play the fool a bit with my trombone. I wonder what she did with her exotic life. Not that Bacchus gives us stuff. Those were the days. Duffel coats and skiffle groups, and humph at the 100 Club, jazz at Eel Pie Island and bop at Ronnie Scott's, fumbled whirls with older girls in sixth form holidays, pocket money saved for Soho nights and spent instead on drink, jukebox coffee bars and Godot at the Vic, Olivier blacked up to play the Moor, and Burton getting drunk. Blue-eyed O'Toole rides out of Desert Sun. Profumo caught with Keeler, and rockers fight the mods. Doctor Who comes flying through. Then Kennedy's shot dead. Kiln Raiders. When we were picking stones to help prepare the playing fields, we boys and girls found pottery and green-aged coins with Caesar's head staring from a distant past of Roman occupation. Of course, we pocketed our plundered trove before museum people came to dig the spot, uncovering a kiln where Marcus, Gaius, or Octavius had turned and thumbed a wheel of clay and baked a pot. I still have my shard of curving rim, and wonder if I own the last remaining jigsaw piece of amphora to make Exhibit 1 complete. Cormorant Boy. Somewhere in Ireland there stands a rock. No words he ever heard or spoke, the awkward, gangly boy taunted for his hearing loss. He spends the days away from bruising human company, finding kinship with the kinder ways of nature. In silent, solitary walks, he senses all about him, and sees and feels what noisy people miss. One day he happens on a cave behind a waterfall, and wonders at the gauze of mist that shuts him from the world he left. Ahead, he scrapes his way through tunnels in the rock, until a light before reveals a shelf above the sea. Now he sits there staring at the sun, darkened silhouette among cormorants who bring fish and leave them at his feet. For centuries, they say, he's kept a vigil from the ledge. Búcail Cailleach Dubh, they call the rock. I'll take you there, if you dare to brave the waterfall, like that lonely cormorant boy. And if you listen, you can hear the speaking waves as they well against the cliff. Búcail Cailleach Dubh, Búcail Cailleach Dubh. Arrival. In dreams, I came upon my hamlet home with a suddenness of dawning fireball sun, where sad tarmac ends and cobbles mark the start of history. Bent-faced houses beckoned, mellow brick like bark upon a Scots pine tree, just waiting to be rubbed by me. Here town-raised country folk, gentrified in conversation, debate between themselves about longevity of lavender and monster marrow-breeding compost that feeds the smell of roses. So have a cup of tea, my dear, and join us on the lawn. No thanks, I'm bored with this. Mountains beckon me, back where I was born. Word for a herb. Herb Robert, you are such a plucky little plant, adorning meanest place with pink trace petals and rufous leaves and stem. And what a call to arms is your scintillating smell. No pulling punches with such pugilistic pungencies in corners where you dwell. Herb you are for sure, very much a Robert, not a Bob, proud to grow in grotty common spot, adding dignity and character where other plants do not. Suck of the sea. Lashes of rock cut through the froth waves, kinks in the current to hazard the brave who hanker for herrings that shoal in the sea. Tararararee, tararararee. About the ship comes in haul of the net, slapped to the swell as keel drags on weed, tilting the decks in suck to and fro. Tararararo, tararararo. Then with a snap the bow breaks free of the pull and gouges a path through dull of the trough to shudder to safety, the hulk and her crew. Tararararoo, tararararoo. Begin the Beguine. Here we are again, earwigs crowding in, pinching naked skin and flighting to the light. This year's global warming pleasure is a happy glut of painted lady butterflies, stopping off from Africa to flutter colour at my greening valley home. Then streaming trail of orange tips, hatchlings seeking sun by sparkling beds of watercress. My spring has just begun. Multicoloured beetle thuds into the kitchen from pine tree habitat. Harlequin by name, bug to raise a grin in me, performer unrestrained in such bright company. But back to little earwig, seen breaking out of winter egg laid months before on hearthside log. Nymph, ghostly white in transparentness, spreading darker like a spill of ink from pincher tail through segments to antennae head. New life begins, and I quite forget a nip that drew my blood. Matterhorn. No other mountain casts a shadow on the sky, as well as on the snow below. No other profile of a peak so tattoos the meniscus of the mind. No other rock spells death and invincibility in such seductive silhouette. And in zesty Zermatt, crouched below, ice picks rust and mark the final rest of those who were rebuffed. Rowan Berries. Tiny clumps of treasure dangling from a thread, just waiting to be picked. But first sift them through your fingers, weigh them in the hand, knead them, count them if you can. The blind man doesn't know their colour, but wills them to be bright, not quite orange, nor yet red. Vermilion, I'd have said. Knife in water. Better that instead of his compulsive whim to hurl a penknife riverwards, Goethe used its many blades to trim the compound ripple words the German nation's drowning in. His toss-up choice, if he saw the splash, was to stay a writer, if not, a painter be. But fate was sealed by a willow tree. Later on he was to write, "Gathered in the poet's pure hand, the waters will congeal." Now that knife lies beneath the silt, safe in the bosom of the Rhine, as are his wisdom words, clutched in time sublime. Footnote here. Goethe described how he used the splash of his penknife, hurled into the Rhine on a whim, to decide whether to give up painting and concentrate on being a writer. He heard the splash, but didn't see the knife's entry because of an overhanging willow. The sound was enough. His mind had already been made up. Call of the Wild. Mooncalf moan of my blown trombone tells cat's cane wen that it's feeding time. Sackbut sounds riff through the vale with promise of meat from a tin. But no food that I buy will make them deny their lust for a natural kill. Squirrel and shrew, robins and wrens, even my hens, are fair game for siblings who bear the same name. Assassins in tandem they are, but by giving a home to 2 kittens alone, I knew not what horrors I'd bring. Now that they've gone, grown old and moved on, the rats have returned, no longer a snack for identikit cat. Jazz-fed chickens in fol-de-rol prefer the sacks for cookhouse call. Its soprano tone has them fly to the door, and if it's ajar they'll land on the floor, pook-pook-pooking at Panama rag. That's a plenty sets egg-lay mood, then sacks aside, a trombone slide evicts them from the kitchen, to resume their free-range romp. And Chanticleer halloos his hens with Pâté News performance doodle-doos. Plastic Caryatid. Skills absorbed in execution of a sketch of Athens' beautiful Erechtheion match spills of ink. Artist's spraint consumed by ancient marble step. Student tourist's blemish on Gamboge stone of Parthenon, there for the next millennium or two. Finished drawing, then, was parcelled up and sent with love and Hellenic stamp to a girl called Jen, crafted from afar, Caryatid third from left, in Winsor Newton tint that brimmed with shining black affection. But it didn't last. I'd moved on, like always, drawn by thoughts of greener grass behind the hill, until, years on, with all my options gone, I too now languish like a plastic memory in a case of glass, alone and looked at, but no longer stirring hearts. Sadly, I own to spilling Indian ink on the steps of the Parthenon. The original Caryatids, maidens holding up the roof, were later moved to the Acropolis Museum to escape being eaten by the acid air. Plastic replicas now take the strain. Yellow. Headless dandelions, undandied by the wind, stand tall against clipped grass, while seed fluff twirls away to grow the colour once again. Nature's quantitative easing keeps the dazzle tint in front of petals pink and purple, red and blue, and gets the vote of insects too. Yes, yellow tops the pollinating pops with bees that give a suck. Part 2. Gotcha. Cuckooed in his plundered welkin habitat, the hermit crab waits upon the tide, big claw held aloft like triumph in the boxing ring. "Look out," they'd say, if shrimps could yell. "Here comes Diogenes, that moving mountain of a shell." Swipsy Cakewalk. When you rang, I was washing my trombone. In 7th position, and slide right out, it just fits the bath. Suds in the bell, then rinse with gel, rub down and dry, then polish it well. Time for a tune? What will it be? Careless Love? Played in C? What's that you say? Either me or my trombone. Let's see. OK, you go, I'll blow. So now I'm nobody's sweetheart. Didn't we have a fine romance? All right, I promise there'll be some changes made. I see, you want all of me. Must I really play Bye-Bye Blues? You used to love Swipsy Cakewalk. And what about 1 o'clock jump? OK, I know. I'm just a big butter and egg man. You know what? You're just a hard-hearted Hannah. Why don't you come on and stomp, stomp, stomp? Surely our love is here to stay. Must I sit right down and write myself a letter? Am I just a stranger on the shore? You say you've had too much of blues my naughty sweetie gives to me. But isn't that the glory of love? Now, I don't get around much anymore. Sole Survivor. I know someone who lives alone and visit him from time to time. We talk of memories akin to both of us, of people loved and those unmet, of places seen, or glimmers in a dream we shared on this, our alter ego trip. Changing of the light. The sun is changing colour. Perceptions are evolving like ripples in the air. Ultra wavelengths, elongating beauty beyond the wit of physicists. Listen. You can hear the shades of yellow murmur in the brightness of the light, morphing into orange, then relaxing to a red you've never seen before. Just you wait until the night, when moon is mooding blue again, and stars cast shadows like violet violations of all the lore we've come to understand. For Otto. Side by side on father's wide piano stool they sat, crossing hands to grab each other's keys, crotchets, quavers ricocheting the night away in post-war pacificity. Dad and Otto, his pub-found friend, ex-POW from Camp 186, alchemists making jazz across the lines, putting war to peace, sergeants both who fought for lands they loved. On with the motley. When we first met, you were wearing banded Mott the Hoople socks, like all young Judes, and twirling down the street to glam rock beat of Steve Harley singing, "Make Me Smile." We held hands and walked the whoopsie-doo, and now look at you, standing there bewigged, defeminized, berating witnesses in your courtly clothes of black and white, consigning other people's muddled lives to pink-tied bundled words of evidence. When your prosecution's done, do put on the glam. Come up and see me. Make me smile. Again. Ballet. Silent figures, relishing their space, assume immobile picture presence on the stage. Blue note tenor saxophone punctuates the modularity of theme, as rhythm postulates movement yet to come. The dance begins abruptly. Centurion. The hand that skims the stone is not my own, as I stand and watch by Dinas lake. And why the shadow when there is no sun? Across the other side was once a camp where Romans tried to tame the wild of Wales, and alone a dreaming sentry skimmed a stone. Melting ice sheets rub and squeak on rock as wind shows eeling ripples underneath. But why the shadow when there is no sun? Centurion, your mind was home in Rome with warmth and grapes, not frozen winterland, downing spear to skim a foreign stone. Puzzle shapes no longer fit as breeze-blown corrugations drive the Thor along. But why the shadow when there is no sun? And here I am, 2,000 years along, watching still by Snowdon's bitten brow. The hand that skims the stone is not my own. And why the shadow when there is no sun? HOORAY BOUQUET. Lines written to a poorly patient in lieu of a bunch of flowers. For mood of persiflage, choose the saxifrage, Jupiters of pink and blue and white, clinging to the ground and rooting for the quench of gentle rain, as is the way of a little xerophyte. For jubilation, I'd go for yellow gorse, sweet smells of coconut in pod-pop beat of sun. Then those sleepy nights with digitalis purpurea, that's foxglove to you and me, making hearts go diddly-dee, slyly nodding you to bed with red and purple head, all the while ignoring petal trails of indigo forget-me-nots. In morning flight again, run you down by clumps of bogland willow herb and honeyed woodbine droop, where brilliant hawk moths hide their beauty, flashing in the dark. But time is of the essence. Wind tousled tang of sheepen pastureland as you step towards the sea. Rock rose, purslane, you're assaulted by the salted scents. Turning back to town, past sagging bindweed hedge, pause to watch the splore-legged waddle of a silent rook, safe from guns on treeless tarmac land. Then through the gate to that familiar pathway home, cobbles leading to the door, and rose-trooped colours marking patient's safe return. So now you have beside the bed a jar of thoughts. Hear the colour, glimpse the frankincense, connect to pain-free days of zestfulness, and get well soon. Silence. Emptiness that follows the passing of a train. The clack of woodquest wings in night rest settlement. Long pause in pinter play on radio. Paranoia poised between two plopping drips. Impossible to grasp all this with sound of tinnitus. Vavoom! Smoke on water, snow on sun. Da-da-da, da-da-da-da. The bassline riffs have just begun, but ragtime's just the opposite. With stride piano, it's that pa-oom sound. Swaggered chords puffed up like a cloud. Yes, rhythm was king with jelly roll and cross-hand fats. pumping pedal to celebrate the din that made us bounce at Waller's whim. A handful of keys, that's what the Harlem fuss was all about. We rode the rocket then. Music now is not a stomp on him. Da-da-da, da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da. Or is it? Passing in the dark. Squinting at her crystal ball, the frazzled gypsy fixed me with her crooked stare and said, "The tragedy of life is yearned for love, unmet by reciprocity, the tunnel dug from different ends that never makes the link." Then she opened wide her arms and said, "It happens to us all, and happen we to it. Think now of countless diggings, journeys struck in parallel, stuck straight in single track." With this, she loosed a single tear, and watched it fall and trickle round the glinting globe of glass. "All we need to do," she said, "is bend it, just a little bit." Trampoline. It was the way he slept, with one hand pointing heavenwards, that caught the eye, not so much the man with warm skull face, who slumbered on with empty bottle by his bony side that angled on the seat. No, it was how he leant with such content. Trampoline would make a handy title to the picture as a work of art. And in that sleep, what dreams might come? Perfection in another place, denied to him by paltry circumstance? I watched him for a while, and then became concerned lest he should be no more alive, till he startled up in flailing agitation, sending bottle rolling down the street, his accusing finger pointing after it. Rap artist. Your paper always rapped my stone in games we played alone. I remember this each time I see the hate that straddles love when nations break the scissor power to cut. No, words placate and end the enmity, like the little crosses you once wrote to me. Awakening. Sad eyes said to me, "Ride the rainbow then, but know that milk for babes and meat for adulthood are dark sayings forgot with age when other nourishment takes precedence, and early bent to wiser ways melts like wax in haughty aspiration. With earthward slide, you'll realize the black-red book funds divinity in ordinary man, proverbially." This poem was prompted by thoughts on Blake's dark sayings, the heavy metaphors, the black hidden meanings within the book of Proverbs. Onward and up. Parting at the estuary was such bleak sorrow for you and me, dirged by Eisteddfod of Scoter, Grebe and Guillemot, and clarinetting oysterbird. Turning to the mightiness of rising rock for strength to carry me alone, I hunched into the wind and yomped away the misery, ouzel piped aboard a mountain floating in the drift of mist. Following the white-bibbed darkling thrush, dodging screes and crags in jouncing furtiveness, I pressed past snow-stilled frozen mops of scrub, and forgot we'd ever met. Arriving, Ouzel led, before the rising jut, I found a cave to shiver through my nightfall purgatory. Taking soundings then to meet the sun, feet in thousands, on and up, ETA the dawning day, I saw my life a climb apart from yours, ready to be drawn astray. The ring ouzel is a bird of the mountains. Its piping call and flight of hide and seek among the rocks can lead you on and up. Biker's Song. When you walked into the water, you left your footprints in the sand. When we rode astride the Harley, I felt you pressing from behind. When we swayed to take the corner, you hugged me tightly with your hands. And we sang our song together, riding on our minds. Hang a left astride a Harley, focus eyes upon the sky. Hang a right astride a Harley, see the country rolling by. When they dragged you from the waves, they smudged those footprints with your heels. But I know you are still with me as I ride the same two wheels. Hang a right astride a Harley, see the country rolling by. Hang a left astride a Harley, focus eyes upon the sky. Share the joy of being together with a Harley on your mind. Last Gasp. Smoking was a fun thing once. Cigarettes with names like Turf and Strand and State Express. But often I would puff a glowing pipe, tamped down with shag-cut rough, clamping teeth on noble curving stem. Bowtie man in check sports coat, at 17 saying "Whizzo" like a bomber pilot back from busting up a dam. The Rolling Stones and Beatles ruled the day, but I bucked the trend, student old before his time, cultivating image even then. Fishfall. The rodman treads dainty by the river, a shadow chasing fishfall in the night. He knows not where he'll cast his baited hook until he hears circumnutating plop, ripples purged of all baroque, as trout from sea sucks in a fly off gliding surface skim. It's there, in Moonsplash, that he'll wait until the water parts again, and he can guess at grub he'll match with pattern tied by him. And so it is in life, when we do seek that hidden chance of catching happiness. Broken Dream. I found you magpied in the mess that is my house, nudging mounted moths and birds' eggs blown 2 centuries ago by nature's genteel terrorists. And embrangled in the maize of bric-a-brac, tin-plate wind-up toys in yellow, red and blue, snuggled up with lead farm animals and ticking fishing reels and hooks and weights and flies to fool the river fish. And there you were, my Dennis Compton cricket bat, signed by him, and bearing marks of balls I hit for 6. But woodworms got you now, for when I took you for a slog, with neighbour bowling down the garden lawn, you broke in half. One memory too far, for manhood boy trapped in self-made warp of time. Or not to be. The sun is young, and moon grown old. Day has just begun, Red squirrels chew the cones of lime-green larch, grasping daintily while keeping wary eye for marten predator. By rushy stream below, a dipper curtsies on a rock, plucking snails from trailing weed. And from a branch of oak, by broken bridge above, a darkened form hangs twisting in the wind, toil of life too great to bear on a morning just begun. Really, Richard? Car parks usurping history, wars of roses and lost causes, old bones of a warrior king, kudos in cathedral places, battleground for teeming tourists. No horse now, no Yorkist crowndom in Elizabethan time, but buried life rehabilitated. For Richard was a kindly man, much put upon by little princes and the words of William S., a story of identity with a spinal twist. Marathon. Gulled on by shrieking fantasies, I pound the streets in awful honour of the Greeks. Body moves in ways approved by Spartan man, automatically, without heed of pain. Thoughts whip the spirit into fear of shame. 16 miles still to be accounted for, and legs pleading for yet another layer of disdain to bury deeper in sweaty swaddlement of comfort zone. Hit the road, Jack. Not my name, but the song will do for this hilly bit to come. I wasted time, and now doth time waste me. Shakespeare's Richard too comes into mind, something about numbering clock. Good one, that. I'll save the dungeon scene for later. Colours coming now. On a beach somewhere, a misty rain blowing off the water, and a dying sun has begun to paint a rainbow across the sky, just the hint of one, with its left foot set gently down among the houses of a little town. Looking out to sea, I glimpse the other end of the spectrum's arch. Then, as if at the flick of a switch, the whole curve lights the leaden sky with its 7 glorious hues, linking land to a magic mark on the sea's impossible horizon. Nearly there, I think, clinging to that sky where to the west, sandwiched twixt silver stratus and the spiky marron profile of the dunes, pleated piles of wispy cumulus glow oxlip yellow, turning at the stroke of a brush through burnished gold to hectic orange and cerise. Now I see a curlew pass across the glowing canvas, its down-curved bill and feathers disco-tinted by the blood-filled sky. Coolie, 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 wistful bubbling cry queuing in the night. But first come climactic pinks and mauves. Is that Charon waiting with his boat? Pay the ferryman, not me. Now I cannot see at all, but I can hear my feet beating up the street. Or is it just the rhythm of my heart? Am I there? Is it over yet? Knee play. Counting down to yesterday, light years fly by, meeting Einstein in the sky. Beach walker staring at the sea, crunching numbers, squaring MC in ecstasy of E. Interloper of my dream, speaking solfege tongues to me, that I may see a sense in all of this that now is that, in the knee play of a life that was. This poem came from thoughts provoked by the timeless experience of Philip Glass's opera, with its running narratives of knee play intermezzos. Not forgot. Hooked cup waits suspended on the wall. Mouse mess mingles with the peppercorn in unpestled mortar pot. Cold chimney draws down the sooted wind. Riffing corner of the rug against the chair she chuckled in. She's passed into the past. Remember her, as the cottage does, in sounds familiar. You're never alone with a spider. I call her Ida, my six-legged spider. You see, I checked her out in my arachnid book, and know she's of the fairer sex, and how she lost 2 shapely legs she cannot tell. With 4 one side and 2 the other, she cuts a dashing curve across the floor, and ends up near her starting point, where she waits a while to regain strength for yet another Paralympic scurry. Thinking it's the bathroom that she wants, and a sip of water from the tub, I place a saucer within 6 paces of her reluctant insect form, and wait. 2 hours later, she's still standing there, and the saucer's dry. Did she take a lick while I wasn't looking? Or did the water just evaporate? Like with the missing legs, I'll never know for sure. But this is what I think about her accident. 1 giant step it took to pin my spider to the floor, but she gamely struggled free, losing 2 limbs above the hairy knee. Little wonder, then, that she's reluctant to court more danger from this human stranger. Each day I find her in the room, I count my blessings, and hers too, and yearn to see her grow another pair. But she's no regenerating worm, and besides, I wouldn't know her then. So I speak to her, and hope that little by little my Ida will learn a spider trust of me, my voice, her silence. What a perfect combination. Blue. Hear my colour, it sings in blue, harmonics of my love for you. Words divide, tones unite, cobalt eyes strike chords that ring a chord between us both in azure, indigo and cyan combination. Now blink, think deepest sea, find infinity. Part 3. Ode to an Old Rose. All dead roses should be dyed. What do you think now? What will you think then? Just look, perplexed petals drooling off the stem. Gone is the corolla of concupiscence, once pinkly deliquescent, now darkly dehydrated, shuddering at the caress of rain. But if you try to represent this indignity of fading life, you find in each charred line and deeply darkened shade a noble belligerence which shimmers with a sense of what has gone before. So look down the stem and see again another rose still closed on beauty yet to come. Stars are falling down. Shooting stars are falling on the mountain, dropping just before the blush of dawn, so the shepherd says, and as the day draws on, downcast curlew calls across the crag, flagging rain to come. Along the cliffs, acrobatic choughs, in tumbling flash of red and black, pretend to clumsiness of flight, watched by leaping goats, not to be outdone in their display of ledge-hop daring do. All these things he sees, one man and his dog, leading scattered sheep to less sparse grass, sheltered from the wind. He knows each one of them and sheds a tear if fluke or adder bite should take its toll. In time of halcyon he identifies the butterflies and flowers and curling ferns that hide in modesty. But tadpole spawn that dollops in the wet, he thinks, is rot of meteorites that fall down in the night. For how can frogs leap up a wild Welsh peak to join his bleating sheep? No, the word is out. Shooting stars are falling on the mountain, dropping just before the blush of dawn. In Wales, frog spawn on a mountain is called Pydrysser, rot of the stars. Drifting. When I have that flying dream, it's always Persia where I've been. But Naishapur is not a scene where modern scrapers touch the sky. No, it's Khayyam's call of eastern peace, with minarets and blossom trees and bustle of the marketplace, and ruby vintage wine and thee and me. Now adrift in waking time, I'm lost in space, astronaut alone in bowl of night, journeying, never seeing the light. Downside up. Walk the mountain, tread the snow, thrust with feet, stand at 90 with the contour of the peak. Turn in rhythm of a pendulum, carve the ice, press and sway in ecstasy, leap the slope with brief control of destiny. Know the way to ski. No parallax. I see, in parallax, a finning fish, and know he's not quite where my mind perceives his place to be. So is it when your wanton words conceal the truth from me. Mostly the expression on your face tells the story that you seek to obfuscate. But still, in love, I choose to take the far-fetched message that you formulate, believing it the wide-eyed way, like a bornly child startled by the lifelight. Trick of light. Abracadabra mountain dawn, magenta scrawl of lips and tongue, rocky profile mouths at thrusting sun, buoyed up through sky of buttermilk, the day has just begun. End of things to come. My love, you are the scratch that feeds the itch, so tickle me the more lest I forget to notice when you turn towards the door. For passions are the end of things to come. Anoint me with the blood that stained the sword from wrath you felt for me the day you left. For passions are the end of things to come. Now you're back again. We can concentrate on being the one that's stronger than the two, that slew our fragile joy the first time round. For passions are the end of things to come. Whippoorwill, the call of New Hampshire state. In dreams you find you're moving further west, from Wales and Wexford Island to Winnipesaukee, from mountain-bordered sea to island-scattered lake. Wyeth's on the wall, Scrimshaw in glass case, and Audubon Peregrine in print. Harley bikers like it too, bandana bright in convoy, riding head upright, where laws say helmets optional, and roadside boulder crushers make mincemeat of the past on Highway 28. Look now, across mud-snow road, that clapboard house faced away from brink of rock, blowing log-fire smoke from stack the swifts will nestle in, when warmer winds from south and west hustle in the spring, and white mountain sheds its melt. Then monarch butterflies, black etched on red, add brightness to a sickly sun, soon to kindle up to 90 Fahrenheit. And in those warmer nights, fireflies prick the purple comfort of the air, and stoop awaits with lime and gin, as whippoorwill speaks for creatures from the wood, and ghost-call lakeside loons caress you into wakefulness. Live free or die, the motto says, in this, the granite state you're in. Kiln Valley. Sometimes nature's flooding rains can claim a whole community, and life will never be the same again. But for man to drown a thriving village deliberately, not with bouncing bomb in time of war, but when church is full of song and people talk and get along, that's beyond the pale. And yet it happened to a peaceful place called Capel Celyn just 50 years ago. 800 acres of productive land, 12 farms, a chapel, school and post office, and livelihoods of people too, all to fill a reservoir for strangers far away. Gone are homes with names like Tynnebont and Dull and Penbryn Fawr, and a farm where early Quakers met in glowworm light of valley night, and a Welsh-speaking village which kept its culture in the face of changing time. Now tombstone names swim wet in double death, decreed by Albion. That poem I wrote in memory of a North Wales village, its history and its people, sacrificed to supply the water needs of another nation. Never again. Byth eto. To a blackcap. 20 feet from where I sleep, she sits to hatch her eggs. Her nest is such a skimpy thing, hanging hammocked from the bendy branches of a fuchsia hedge. It is my privilege to host this little bird, who chose sanctuary with me in preference to the alder car below. Blackcap, you are an honoured guest, so regale me with your warbled song to celebrate the swelling madrigal, fortissimo. Gone but not forgot. I knew you once, and now your species dead, crossed off the list of Linnaeus, named in Latin by lepidopterists who marvelled at your exotic life. Large Blue, your name in English. Scarce enough when as a boy I took you in my net, just to see your rarity, brightest butterfly where colour matched the sky. And then I let you go and watched you fly into the summer sun, not knowing then how odd your life began. Caterpillar feeding on the buds of time, then grabbed by stinging ants and drawn down into hummock nest beneath, and there your segment gland of sweetness milked by teeming brood, who gave you food of tiny squirming grub. Pupating 1 year on, you hatched to be the handsome butterfly I used to see, before you came to be extinct, now pinned and labelled in that cabinet of time. The large blue butterfly became extinct in 1979. Winter. Pulsing transpiration slows in sky-stretched staunch of trees. Abscission shrugs the terminated leaf adrift. Snowfall's compline bell calls prayer for pristine sleep. proclaiming countdown to spring's resurrection, that rhapsody in green. Hell on Earth. A people pounded by religion cannot fit the boot of a foreign state, however hard the cobbler drives the nail. Forced democracy has its ghoulish consequence in evil caliphate, where distortion of belief dooms half a continent to devil's drool in death on death for suffering's sake. Now only more the same can end the game of torture, flags and funny walks. Against all this, the rest of us measure out our lot in pitiful irrelevance, selling souls so willingly to crude, blaspheming reality TV. Mothball. Shunning mask of darkness, star-bright seething shapes congregate on moonwash white of wall. Eyed hawk partners plum-brown lappet in the mothball of the night. Tiger, burning cream and red and black, accompanies an elephant in pink, fresh from willow herb and woodbine lick. Convolvulus cavorts with carmine cinnabar, proboscis sucking sweet from bindweed's counterclockwise creep. Next comes ghostly vaporer, with rare blue underwing, drifting on the scent of time, then resting side by side on lichen-covered rock. Joining them in beam of bright, lackey, egger, magpie, footman, fox, and goat, until the air is all a mist of wings, kaleidoscope afloat. So let us set it all to music, moonlight serenade for insect son et lumière. But soon the butterflies will come, as lunar lightness fades to morning sun. First, peacock flirts with tortoiseshell, then red admirals choose flowers of buddleia, scorning cabbage white, who partners dodge of shadow, unaware she's all alone. Hope Hibernal. Rather I would write my tale on running water than tell it you who are so loath to listen. Better that you hibernate in my January thoughts until we reassess this mess in the waking clash of spring, when I find you still on the meniscus of my mind. Summer Holiday. In childhood journey back to Wales, where I was born, I remember seeing a soldier, all alone, guarding roadside ammunition dump, half covered by tarpaulin flap, and barrage balloons tugging at white hawsers, connecting them to towns of Biggleswade and Baldock, grounded still in post-war shortages. The only coloured cars were old, like ours, a 30s Hillman Minx, which father had to crank in double-breasted D-mob suit he wore. In the 50s then, ration books still meant sweetless, meatless times for us. Mum in triple-knotted scarf and shoes, so sensible, and we brothers knitted up the same in stripy pullovers that turned us into twins. The Three Pots pub at Atherstone was our halfway stop, and we two Gansey boys, trapped in petrol-smelling back, could get out then and walk the panting dog. Earlier, in Colchester, we'd watched our father pack the car. 3 things each, he'd told us. My choice, a ball and fishing rod and cricket bat. Later on, my brother was to drop his stamp collection from the speeding car, 40 miles an hour, and see the road behind strewn with Egypt's pyramids and heads of US presidents. But father wouldn't stop, and my brother couldn't speak for tears, till mother touched him gently with a shilling in her hand. Then at BOUQUET, crossing border into Wales, we whooped and cried and marvelled at the mountains once again, and headed to the nearest lake to fill the steaming rad for that final homeward run. Portmaddock, here we come, back to where our lives began. Mr. Pollington. You came trotting down our road on Friday sunshine days, you, your 2-horse cart, loaded up with fruit and veg. Long shiny hair you had, we saw it sticking out from your wide-brim hat, and waxed moustache twirled to pen-nib points. All dressed in black you were, with smart waistcoat buttoned up, and you waved a whip to urge the ageing horses on. Your wife sat by your side, and never spoke, but puffed on a cheroot you lit for her. Spuds and cabbages my mother bought, and you gave her change from a leather bus conductor's bag. Mr. Pollington, you were a right dandy of a man, and winked at us when we stroked the horses' heads, and clicked your tongue, and cracked the whip, and you were gone. Sweet Gale. Last night I swear I heard a nightingale, grace notes rising to crescendo gurgling, a heart and soul on journey way beyond our earthly register. From where it sang, the misty dewdrop air weighed wet with scent of myrtle bog, Sweet Gale by other name, a sound and smell that blent so well in mystic summertime. Time Cutter. Sweet sweeps of grass laid low, red prick of poppy, that universal sigh, relentless twist and curl as he lets his arms unfurl, a swishing pendulum restoring contours to the ground, scythed in layered lines of lushiness, yellowed now by morning sun. The time cutter's job is done, but life goes on. Crith of a heron. In that warm follicle of a moment, bent in stillness of her essence, she waits, forever if she must, to pounce. Zigzagged in that awful ticking roundelay, standing ready to detect every little movement within her chosen stream of consciousness, integral unzipped, yet zipped upon itself, argal to act, she rehearses inwardly, as turmoil licks the arching tuck. It is the crith. Chance will only come the once. Take it. Intrigued by her mounting hunger, she cannot miss that moment of release. To be, to act, to be. There is no other way for bankside heron to pass the day. Assume that striking pose, seize the moment, Prometheus unbound, yet bound to re-begin, endlessly. When the moment's here, beak is but a spear, and finning fish have everything to fear. All this I know, as I was there, watching too, unseen, unbeknownst to stock-still bird. For 2 hours plus we were bound together by that rushy rhythm of our river. Such steady concentration made me one with flowing water. To act, to be, to act, until, eventually, I barely saw the flash, the straightened Z of neck, as spotted trout was deftly spiked and carried off in clumsy climbing flap. Silver adder. coiled fatly on a rock. The adder sucked in strength from the body-heating sun, and made ready for the hunt. Its squat arrow-head hid folding fangs ready primed with searing yellow sting, enough to stop a rabbit dead. The only movement came from its deeply forked black tongue as it licked the scent of prey from off the mountain air. Along its stubby length, a dark zigzag announced its viperous identity. Meanwhile, a buzzard circled overhead. The snake, a silver mutant, not the usual bracken brown, melded in so well with its grey bog habitat. And on the other side of the rock, a young boy sat near, unaware, as he listened for the noise that brought him to the heather hummock by the rock. Soon it came, a distant hum that rent the sky, increasing in intensity as vibrations shook the dry, cracked earth. The adder couldn't hear the deafening drone, but felt the thrumming sound. Slowly it lifted its brutal head, swaying side to side as its tongue tasted air. Coiled tightly now, it sensed the smell of prey, but still its coral black eyes could not find the target, hidden by a tussock hump. The boy looked up and saw the aeroplane, Flying Fortress, 4 engines, reciting to himself, B-17, crew of 10, 9 bomb capacity. Behind the bomber came 7 more, but that was all, 4 missing, thought the boy. His sadness grew as the planes flew on, and then he saw a fluttering sheen of silver as tiny strips of radar-fooling screen cascaded down to him. One fell upon the adder's rock, and the boy reached out in search of it. His cry of pain was drowned by the sound of the last returning plane. And as the striking adder crawled away, the circling buzzard swooped on the spent fat snake and soared aloft with its prisoner prey. The boy, trying not to cry, staggered down the hill, clutching his swelling hand, which still held the silver from the sky. Boyhood Man. Put away childish things. Now's the time to know reality, that fairy tales were just a load of tat, told to slake the young imaginings. And yet I hesitate to let go altogether, for the boy within the man, the cave behind the waterfall, is forever beckoning. These yearnings, then, are the music of the mind, playing continuously, until the profoundest sequence of the anthem is finally resolved. Words in Stone. You, who fashion grace from bronze and stone, and I, who stone my memories with ink, can we ever make that link beyond a glance or flickered look across a flame? I pile up questions in my mind, never to be put, lest you turn to chisel shapes from rough of your own marbled thoughts, seeing only unformed musings out of reach. Thus we walk, in opposite direction, and pass without a single backward look, you to sculpt, and I to mess with words. Red. Red is the nipple of your heart, the blush I feel for you when I am wrong and you are right, a colour you don't see until the light comes streaming in the window, once again.